My name is Gumi. Well, I have a horribly long Viking name like all of us, which you will not remember anyway. Gudmundur Ingi Thorvaldsson. I'm an actor first. Graduated from the acting school in Iceland in 1998. Worked ridiculously hard as an actor for 10 years when I went to London to do a master's in performance making because I was really tired of theatre. I was tired of myself in theatre. I was tired of Iceland. And I really thought of quitting art, but I couldn't. So I went to London and studied more art, weird art. It was absolutely amazing. And I really rejuvenated during my stay in London. Found something new, something fresh, new approaches to theatre, new approaches to acting, and was really inspired. What inspired me most was a place called Shunt Lounge. Shunt is a theatre group in London, which they have made probably a few of the best theatre shows in London for the past 10 years. Shows like Tropicana, Money, loads and loads of shows. And one of the owners of Shunt was a teacher of mine in Goldsmiths University where I studied. And we became very good friends, and he asked me to participate in one of his shows. And little by little, I could do whatever I wanted in Shunt Theatre. So I become like one of the homies in Shunt. And what was amazing about Shunt, and this is leading into why I'm here to talk to you, is that they, by coincidence, like most good things happen by coincidence, so they had this brilliant idea when they were a young theatre group to make a piece that they called Tropicana. And they had found a huge place underneath the London Bridge station in the vaults. It was a huge empty space underneath the railways. And they wanted to make a big theatre production there. So, and it was disgusting. It had been squatted for parties and you know, it was shit and piss everywhere, and it's disgusting. But they wanted to make a show there, and they had no money. So what they did was that they cleaned it a bit, put red carpets and candles and stuff. Then they called the director of the National Theatre in London and got him to visit and told him, like, if we get money, we could do this, and here we would do that, and this would be great over here, and he would be the scene of this. And the guy from the National Theatre said, yes, I'll give you the money. And they were really, really happy, of course. And then, I can't remember the exact figure, but let's say he gave them £20,000, which could be the right amount. And they were really happy, and they started doing all the things they need to do, you know, put all the light rigging and all the stuff, cleaning and blah, blah, blah. And when they had done that, they had spent £200,000, so 10 times the amount they got. So they were basically bankrupt before they had even put the show on. So what they basically did, out of necessity, was to open a nightclub and a bar in the vaults. And because they were artists, they decided the best thing to do in those vaults was to get other artists to join them. So they, because there were 10 in the group, they took turns in curating a week. So every 10th week, one member of the group was curating the whole place. So every week they had like 30 or 40 new artists in the vaults doing all kinds of shit. Like, you know, there were advanced performance makers, there were, you know, just paintings, musicians, whatever have you, from all over the world. And it became hugely successful. And they weren't really after finished work. They wanted people to come because they needed audience to get to the next stage in their performance making. So little by little, or pretty fast actually, they became the hottest place in town. And when I moved to London, I remember going through the London Bridge station, and there was a tiny little door in the wall, just like tiny little, and there was a queue, like stretching like a mile. And I remember this still, just like, what the fuck is this? Why are they going in? Because there was no advertisement, nothing that told you what was in there. So they became huge and very popular, and this is what they did. And when I was there, it took a year to get in there. You know, if you applied to do your show in Shunt, you could expect to have to wait a year to get in. That's how successful it was. They never paid the artist anything. But what happened in there was that when you walked in there, it was like walking into the Alice in Wonderland world. Every week you had something completely new, completely different in those worlds. And I was just trying to find something to like show you the atmosphere in there. This is very, you know, weird to Icelanders because we don't have those worlds. You probably have them in Lithuania. You know. Yeah, underneath the railways. And because of the war and the threat of the war, nothing could be in there, you know. So there was like 15,000 square meters of empty space because, of course, if there would be war, the first thing that they would bomb was the railways, you know. So just very, very recently, they like released those laws, security laws. So there's just endless stuff like this. Sometimes you didn't understand, have a clue what the artist was trying to do. And that was really normal, and that was really acceptable in there, because it was not about the finished product or, you know, becoming famous from being a shunt. It was about showing your work in progress and getting something back from the audience, and getting something back from the other artists. And what was really, really nice in there is that I got to know so many people from all over the world, and you were like handpicked to take part in all kinds of shows because you knew something. People would come into the cafeteria and say, anyone here who can play harmonica? Or you would raise your hand, can you be in our show tonight? We really want to try something out with a harmonica player. Or, you know, do somebody know how to juggle? Or whatever, you know. Would somebody like to be naked on stage and let me paint him tonight? And, you know, people would just say yes or no. And you would all of a sudden be involved in weird performances that you would never have done before. And what I found with myself is that I've never been as inspired in my life as when I was there. I've never had as many ideas and felt just so alive as when I was in Shunt. It was fucking brilliant. I didn't go to many other theatres in London because this was enough for me, you know, because every week there was something new. And I'm going to show you. Not everything in Shunt was good, and that was okay. It was brilliant. You know, you saw a lot of really bad art in Shunt, and that was fine. You know, it was just people making experiments. And this is me making an experiment, presentation of how things are. This is round 4. So we had a fight, me and a girl I was working with, 5 rounds, all over Shunt. And this is what you did. So 1 round was in the toilets, 1 round was in the smoking area, 1 round was at the bar, and so, you know, I got an agent in London, still got him, and got work and stuff. Then me and my wife got pregnant, and we decided to move home because England is not a good place for pregnant women. In England, pregnant women stay at home, and my wife was certainly not ready for that. So we moved home, and I realized when I came back home that in order for me to survive Iceland, I needed to do this in Iceland. I could not go back to the northern Scandinavian atmosphere of not sharing ideas, everybody being really uncertain of themselves, and all this really weird fear of showing who we are, which is really Scandinavian, really like Catholic middle-age oppression. Maybe it's the same in Lithuania. You know, nobody really wants to share an idea because either people are going to judge you as a fool, or somebody's going to steal the idea, or, you know, it's all kind of this really weird fears. And I was lucky enough that soon after I moved home, 3 other people from London moved home. We had met on several occasions in London. We had been in the same scene, and they had all, at some point in time, performed in Shunt. And we decided to meet up for a coffee, and we were thinking about doing a piece together, but all we talked about was Shunt and how much we missed Shunt. So we simply thought, okay, then just let's make Shunt in Iceland. And we came up with this name Vislan, which Iris knows everything about. It was a part of the start of that phenomena. Vislan means process in Iceland, so you would have like fisk Vislan means fish factory. It's about the process, and that's what we were aiming at, just to get people together and show the working process, just like Shunt. And in the beginning it was quite difficult because people wanted to come with a ready-made piece, like, you know, I have been painting, I want to show my painting and try to sell them. I just released an album and I want to play my songs, and we were trying to tell people, no, that's not what we're after. You know, please play a song that you haven't released. You know, play something new. Why don't you paint live for us? Just like, you know, make new paintings on the spot, rather than bring your paintings and try to sell them. That's not what we're about. And it's been going on for 3 years now. And slowly Icelanders are learning that this is okay, you know. It's okay to come with unfinished ideas. It's okay to talk about them. It's okay to show them. It's okay to be vulnerable. Because as artists, we have to learn to be vulnerable. We have to dare to be vulnerable. And I always say nobody can steal your idea. I mean, you've heard this all before. I mean, there are only like 7 to 11 stories that we're telling again and again. So there's nothing new. The only thing that we have that is special is just ourselves. So nobody can really steal your story or your idea, because nobody could do it like you do. And I think that's a very fundamental thing that we need to realize. I think the fundamental fear of somebody stealing your idea or something is that you're not certain about yourself. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you stand for. As soon as you know your own worth, you know that nobody can steal your idea. Because you're unique. And nobody can tell your story like you do. So this is what we did. You probably see Iris somewhere around. So this is our version of Vislan, of Shunt. And the Shunt people have been over a few times, especially my good friend Misha Twitchin, who was like my teacher and then became a good friend. So this is what we did at the North Pole Theatre where Iris ran that place with a few other people. And as you can see, it's very similar. It's almost like stealing the idea from Shunt. But it's nothing like Shunt because it's Icelandic. It's very, very different. What happened then was that so this was an idea, and we could do it like we never got any money, no funding, because the Icelandic grant system is really square, you know. And when you fill out the form, this has to be like, so what is the product? How many times are you going to show your product? Who else are involved? You okay?
I'm fine.
She's amazing.
I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a typical night program, 30, 40 people. So, and I found out that I was never quite able to make any money from this. And nobody really understood me. Like when I went to the banks or I went to the ministry or whatever to talk about Vislan, I could just feel that at some point they shut down. You know, they didn't get the idea, or they didn't trust me, or there was something that I didn't understand about money that was preventing me to get to where I wanted with this idea. And because I'm a maniac, I went to an MBA. So I did an MBA, Masters in Business and Administration, for 2 years at the Reykjavik University. which is an executive study, so you have to be working full-time while you're doing it, and it was complete madness to be an independent artist and doing this work at the same time. But the result was that I was hired as the directing manager of a little place called Tjarnarbio, which is a theatre and a venue around the pond. So now I have been taking this ideology into Tjarnarbio, which is the place that I run now. And basically, Tjarnarbio is the venue for the independent performance makers in Iceland. And you have to apply, and you can get in, and we supply them with, the stage, the time, the technical equipment, assist them in marketing and all that stuff, but they do the arts. I don't. When I have, with the board, selected you as an artist to come in, I don't interfere with what you do. It's absolutely up to you. So I'm not a theatre director in that sense. I'm more of a managing director. And one of the things that's just in the contract is that you have to be willing to share your work at least once a month while you're there. If you don't want to do that, you have to pay rent. So either you share or you pay rent. And at first it was really difficult. People didn't want to do it. People were like, why do we need to do that? This is ridiculous. I'm not ready. All kinds of cliches. But little by little, people are learning that this is brilliant, to come and talk about your idea. This is not me. It's not kiteboarding. That's funny. So this is. This is Vala. She's one of the members of Vislan, and this is from a piece that we made. So we made this Vislan. We made 8 Vislan in 2.5 years, and it was madness to curate 8 huge get-together. 30 artists, and after the 8th Vislan, we decided we're not going to do this again until we made our own piece, because that was what it was always about. That was what Shunt was about. So the Shunt people were a great theatre group, and they would steal ideas or be inspired by all the artists that would go through Shunt, and then every 2 years they would make their own piece. And each and every one of the group, they were really, really different. They would be investigating their interest in Shunt Lounge for those 2 years. One of the group was really interested in stand-up, so she was doing all kind of weird stand-ups, always doing stand-ups. Misha, the guy that I was working with, was really interested in minimalism and just lights and the movement of the hands and old texts. So that was what he was working. So every 2 years they would come together and say, listen, what have you learned in those 2 years and what do we want to make next? It's beautiful. So that was always the idea, that we were going to be inspired by all these people and then we were going to make a show. But because we never got any grants, because this really took a lot of time and effort to make those Vislans, we never had time to make our own work. So we would always 2 days before each event, we'd say, we haven't made any work, let's just do something. And we did just something, So we decided after 8 events that we would make our own work. So this is our first full-blown work that we premiered in October last year, called Strings, and I was really happy with it. It was really weird and really avant-garde. It was all over the theatre, and it was more like an art installation where the audience were completely responsible for their own journey. There was nobody telling you where to go, where to look, or what to do. You could go to the bar for 2 hours. We did this for 4 hours, so this was a really, really difficult piece to do. And we had to be at it for 4 hours without stopping. And the progress, the madness that built up for those 4 hours was the piece. So you could come, look around all the theatre, then go for 2 hours to the bar, and then come back and see what has happened. But in the end, most people wanted to stay in the show because they didn't want to miss anything, because it was interesting. No, I'm just worried because I have to be on set at 10. So I really believe in this. I mean, this is what keeps me alive, sharing ideas. And if you can name one person that has made art completely on his own, then I'd be most happy to hear about that person. Nobody has done it. You always have someone to help you out, to be inspired by, even just a muse. You need something to be inspired by. So I'm here to talk about sharing ideas, guys. So if you have any questions.
Yeah, question.
Yeah?
You were talking about rent or share. How does that work?
Sorry, rent?
Like example you
Yeah.
rent the place, or you were sharing ideas and then you didn't have to pay rent, or what?
Yeah.
Is
So,
it still like that?
yeah.
How do you select who is coming into the theatre to work? What's your selection?
The selection process is just online. So we have this horrible web page that we're about to change. It's absolutely hideous.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
You kind of said that when the Lithuanian directors came here to
Yeah.
perform and to help you, that they brought some new perspectives in
Yeah.
the theater.
Yeah.
What is Icelandic theater like?
Icelandic theatre now it's getting more and more European in the sense that it's more and more kind of theatre are being accepted. But back in the 80s and the 90s, it was really just linear narrative, which is very, very Scandinavian, very commercial. Talking heads, yes, like good text, that was what it was all about, and a good story,
But it's getting killed again a bit now.
I think just with everything in Iceland after this blessed bankruptcy, it's much harder to get grants.
Yeah.
And it's much more pressure on the big theatres to perform well financially.
Yeah.
There's no money to pay debts because you put up some fucking play that didn't sell.
And you have to have, all this.
So they start to play safe.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And I can feel that.
yeah,
But what
But like
means
it-
like to play safe?
play safe is this, because 80% of people who buy tickets in theatre are women. Women the age from 40 to 80. So they take their husbands to the theatre, or they go with their friends. So they basically control the selling of the tickets. Middle-aged, elderly women. So, and if you just look at this from a marketing perspective, and you say, okay, the 80% of the theatre goers is this people, how do I get them into the theatre? That's what you do. So you're not putting a place for people like you who never have any money, you never go to the theatre anyway, you stream things, you download illegally, because you want to drink beer. Why should I put up a play for you guys? Why? I mean, I of course hope that some investors, because that's always how it has to work. The thing was that after the collapse there was a lot of empty space.
Yeah.
That nobody knew, like the North Pole was going to be torn down in 2007 and they were going to build some apartment blocks. Then came the bankruptcy, so they had this house and it was a mess. Nobody would have done anything in there proper. No proper factory would have moved in there. So they basically said, yeah, you artists, you can be in this place till we tear it down. So because it was an empty space. And it was the same with Útgerðin, which is now Sjávarklassinn.
Yeah.
They were going to do Sjávarklassinn before the bankruptcy. Then after the bankruptcy, they put it on hold, and there was an empty space, and let's do something that was called Hugmyndahús Háskólanna, which was like just an idea center from the University of Iceland. So either we have to have another collapse, so there will be empty space, or investors will realize that art has potential
Yeah.
to be something that we can export. And it is ridiculous. I mean, I think our biggest export, you know, except fish and shit, is people like Björk, you know, Sigurós of Monsters and Men, Moom, and we have actors and directors doing really good job, like Baltasar Kormákur, who is now one of the leading Hollywood directors. We have actors like Ólafur Darri, Björn Hlynur, Gísli Örn, Hera Hilmars, hvað heitir hún hérna nýja, hérna Sigrún sem núna að meika í Bretlandi, hérna. So we have loads of actors and artists who are really making a good name for themselves. And it will take a time before somebody realizes that this is as good export as fish, you know, or aluminium. Yeah, but it will happen eventually.
We have to choose the government though first.
Well, I mean, it's always been like this. It's not only about this government. Okay, guys, are you good? Yeah? Can I go?
Wow.
Thank you.